Hello and welcome to the Coder Kids podcast. I'm Jeff Ward and joined as always by my faithful co-host,
Bald buddy.
James Thornock, the man. We're both wearing glasses and bald heads today, and we will be joined later and headphones. And we'll be joined later by another bald man not wearing headphones.
No, he is.
I don't think he wore headphones. Oh, he did wear headphones?
Those Logitech headphones, yeah.
Okay, I guess I just didn't notice because for me, all things just flow together. Like it's funny when I jump on like a professional call and I'm wearing these gamer headphones. Like sometimes people will be like, "Oh, you must be a gamer" or something. They'll say that.
That's funny.
But for me, like I don't even notice. Like to me, like I expect people to be wearing headphones because like obviously these are the most comfortable. So anyway, go figure.
Yeah.
Well, we've got an awesome interview today. Actually already took place. So when we start the interview, James is going to say, "Welcome to the Coder Kids podcast."
Again.
A little awkward. That'll be the third time since I just said it.
Okay. You should feel so welcome, like beyond welcome in this podcast.
You'll be so welcome. And just welcome again. So James, give me an update. What's going on with you in the KT, Texas?
Yeah. So let's just say I've just been focusing so hard on the YouTube recently. The YouTube. I'm also been working on the English recently.
And you've been doing the business too. I mean,
I know lots of those. So our YouTube channel recently broke 100 subscribers, and then like the next day got 15 more subscribers. So that was awesome. We really appreciate y'all subscribing to our YouTube channel, and the growth there has been great. I think with our kid-friendly game reviews, it's been really neat to see people keying into that and hopefully finding that useful and productive to check that out. So, as far as personal life, just found out my son's allergic to peanuts, and that's rough. So shout out to parents with kids with food allergies, but just kind of going through that. But that's basically it.
It might not be like super severe, like he's not going into like anaphylactic shock or anything.
I don't think on the first time it ever is.
Okay, I don't know about it. I'm just I saw that Lara had posted something about eczema.
Yeah.
Did you determine that's the cause of the eczema, is the peanuts, or is it something else still?
Well, so if you have eczema, you are more likely to develop a peanut allergy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like the science, I'm not going to quote the study, so you'll have to look it up on your own. But if you have kind of agitated or broken skin and you have peanuts exposed to that, that's how you get allergic.
Interesting.
But
so
if you ingest
peanuts on your eczema.
Oh yeah. If you ingest peanuts before somehow it reaches like broken skin outside, then you typically are not, because your body's like, oh, this is food. But if it's like on the outside of like a rash, it's like, oh, this is an enemy. And so anyway, being a parent's tough, guys. So,
well, I'll give a brief update because I know probably people are here to hear from Squatingdog, not from us. But guys, the big update in Utah is that it snowed crazy amounts. Actually got like 6 inches. Did I tell you this?
No
James?
way.
Yeah, we got 6 inches yesterday, and we do not have a snowblower, so I was out there shoveling.
Old school.
That was a lot of work. We'll get a snowblower eventually, but I want to get like a pretty good one, so they're pretty expensive. But we're shoveling the snow. The driveway is now clear. The roads are actually clear as well. They plow really well, and the snow was fun. I mean, it was thick, and we still got a lot of it. So we're probably gonna have it all until February, March. So
that is wild.
It's fun.
Two guesses at what the temperature is here in Houston, Texas.
I mean, I'm going to go with like 75 in Houston.
Okay, one more guess. A little bit higher.
80?
81. There we go.
Oh,
you got it.
81.
Yeah, dude.
Let's just have a quick reminder why we moved to Utah. I mean, I know that it's cool that you guys have like nice weather in the winter, but we have nice weather in the summer, so it's a trade-off, but I like the 4 seasons, and I'm enjoying winter so far, although I know for a fact that like by March when it's still snowing, I'm gonna be like, what the heck? Why did I move here? And it's also like 30 outside, so I can't really. Anyway,
To be fair, no
But,
one moves to Houston for the weather. They moved to Orange County, California, where our guest is from. So
let's bring him in. Let's
all
bring him
right.
in. That's
And
all the
now,
updates.
cue transition. All right, welcome to the Coder Kids podcast. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Squatingdog himself, 1T, and very excited for this. When I found out that he had his own Discord community and just this awesome kind of vibe going on there, and I've been following your guides for who knows forever, since as long as I was on Reddit and playing Fortnite both, right? Because that's where I discovered your work. Then anyway, so it was really neat to be able to have you on and reach out. And I listened to some of your other podcasts, and so I'm hoping in this podcast to go a little
he's
bit
like
deeper.
weirdly familiar with your life.
It's called
He knows where I live
research.
and stuff.
I'm doing for those of you listening to the podcast and not watching the video, I'm doing air quotes. This is research, right?
Well, I think on another podcast you like talked about fast food, and James was like, "Yeah, he like loves Taco Bell or something."
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Right, Mr. Baja Blast.
I was like, James,
himself.
I don't know if I really need to know that, but that's cool.
It's important
That's
to
cool.
kids, though. Baja Blast
Yeah.
is the best form of drink you could ever have. Not
Oh,
sponsored at
man.
all.
Yeah, there's a lot of brands we mentioned that are completely
It's
unsponsored.
every episode has to have some kind of weird sponsor. So this one's Taco Bell. So
Great.
I'm sure
Baja
we'll
Blast.
work in. I'm sure we'll
Just
work in
call
like
us.
a couple
Call us.
others, right? So first things first, you definitely just tell us what you do today.
Okay. What I do today, I'm a full-time streamer and content creator and app designer developer. So I manage multiple social medias and have been managing them for over 3 years now. Reddit specifically is the kind of the gateway drug, so to speak, to get into everything else.
Right.
My stuff blew up on Reddit a long time ago on social media there, and it was just like to help people finish challenges. And little did I know that that would be the gateway to kind of like initiate being able to do this full time, which I think it doesn't happen to most people. But ultimately, what I was trying to do is create helpful content for the Fortnite community in particular. And as the Fortnite community blew up, my content kind of trailed behind. And then, so that's essentially what I do. I'm a streamer, try to provide positive, uplifting content to gamers. And I also do the content side where I'm creating content that is helpful through cheat sheets, app, and all that type of stuff, and also just entertaining. So I try to manage all those things at once.
And quick question. I mean, it seems like from watching small parts of your streams, like that you're roughly speaking kid friendly. I mean, is that kind of what you're going for?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just fun to be more approachable to more people if possible.
Yeah.
And I personally have worked with the education system my whole life. I was a resident director before this position, which I helped, manage kind of like the psychology of one's brain for college students and like how that informs your decision making. And then was on like suicide prevention, those types of things like were really crucial and really cool to me. And so I wanted to make gaming a little bit more than just, I'm either good at a game or I'm either entertaining at a game, but that how we game is pretty crucial to your own health, to your own safety, those types of things. And so I wanted to create a positive and uplifting space for people that like might be in a toxic environment to try to counterbalance that a little bit. So it was just easier for me to be family friendly in that regard than not.
Right. Because that's
what
you're trying to create, essentially. You're like, this is how I'm going to create it because this is what I want to end up with.
Right.
Wow.
How do you feel like it's going in terms of the mission so far? I mean, do you feel like you've been able to fulfill some of that, or you're just trying to go day to day?
Yeah.
Like, do you get people reaching out to you?
know what you mean by reaching out, but what I
Like,
do know is that like you can tell the difference in our chat, like especially
yeah,
It's true.
with Twitch. When you jump in, you will notice a difference, and I think that speaks a lot to the environment we're trying to create. And so when you show up and everyone kind of welcomes you, and like you get a gifted sub, and then people are just kind of nice, you're kind of like, oh, I was coming in with a bad attitude, and it kind of adjusts your attitude a little bit. And so I think that alone has been really cool to see. And I think a lot of people could advocate for that, who come by. So, I mean, I would say just come on by and check it out. I think like our mission kind of has been speaking for itself, and that's
yeah.
why people stick around, which is really rad. So,
Well, that's probably what I mean by reaching out, because
Mhm.
I don't ever get on Twitch because I'm like a
Okay,
total noob.
sure, sure. Well, you're on Discord, so you're halfway there, right?
Yeah, I'm
Right.
on my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Our whole business is kind of on Discord. So we teach
Ja-
classes within Discord and all that stuff. So,
Oh, cool.
James like really likes Fortnite, which is
Hmm.
probably how
so
he found you because of the cheat sheets. But
yeah.
I am like really bad at Fortnite, which is
Yeah,
I
totally.
probably need the cheat sheets.
Hmm.
I played with James a little bit early on,
We're
but I'm
talking
just so
super little bit. Like, yeah.
super little
Yeah,
bit, and
like
I'm
that.
really bad. So I mostly play Heroes of the Storm, which
Yeah, yeah.
is
I
a
mean,
Blizzard
you got to
game.
find your own game. Like, and
Yeah,
ultimately, I think being a gamer is what I'm an advocate for. But I'm I'm so like in Fortnite, like I know so much about it.
yeah,
It would be a waste of my time to try a bunch of other things, like and be into it. It's like I'm already this deep, and so there's a
yeah,
part of that that's like you might as well just continue, and obviously I love so many other games. I've been a gamer my whole life, and the fact that I can do this as my job is a really freaking cool thing. But the reality is like I gotta, that's a problem that I have to figure out on the Twitch side of things, right? Because there's so many people that are playing so many different games, and then the skill gap of every game that stays longer and longer is higher and higher. And so I think like
It's
people that
wicked.
come in are having a real hard time.
right.
They're like, what am I doing? Like, why is that person way up there? How do I die so instantly? Like there's stuff going on, and you're like, I'm learning how to edit. I'm learning how to put
Yeah.
a build in front of me and my opponents. And so that's a reality. And so what's funny is on Saturdays is a specific day where we take the game and we kind of flip it on its head and do custom games where
Hmm.
essentially it's all about like pickaxe battles or the last person dancing or like really ridiculous stuff. So it kind of gets people into the community to get to know each other. And so I ask everybody to fill. And so they'll fill games, and you'll meet other people in we call it the Dog Squad community. And then you start having relationship with people, and then you start going, oh, this is a little bit bigger than just playing Fortnite. This is like a community. And so I think that's really crucial. I think that's like a huge agent to pushing any of your content, is if you can build a community that cares about each other genuinely,
Yeah,
that's going to uplift everything, like everybody that's a part of it. And so yeah, even if you're bad, there's a specific day we have for you to come on
yeah.
by. So
Saturdays. It sounds
come
like.
on by Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a quick note about your community, right? Like, so I was reaching out to you, and I was trying to figure out like, how do I get in touch with this Squatting Dog guy? And it turned out to be super easy, but I wasn't sure the first steps that I was supposed to make, and
Mhm.
so shout out to like Tony Stark of Winterfell, or I think
Best.
Val is another. But like
Mhm.
they were super helpful, and they're like, "Hey, these are some podcasts he's done. Like, I don't know if you've listened to those," and I didn't know they existed, and so
Yeah.
they it was like just insanely welcoming. And so if to parents, right, if you've ever
Mhm.
been on Twitch and you ever feel like people are just calling each other names or just like absolutely
Right.
spamming the chat with useless stuff, which that happens in every kind of streamer
Mhm.
space, just because the text box is there, people are going to use it. But
Right.
I mean, it really was, at least for me, just it was like really surprising. And just like you said, like you stop on by and you'll notice a difference. And so we're trying to foster that for us. Obviously we're a company, and so what we're doing is to do that in an educational kind of setting. And
Mhm.
I think we have we've done Minecraft and Fortnite camps previously, and I think the hardest skill in Fortnite or Minecraft or any other is honestly just communication. You're talking
Yeah,
to,
100%.
most of our students are, third through fifth grade or whatever who are taking those. And I mean, I still need practice speaking, and they certainly do. And so what we do is we assign different leaders. So if we're dropping into the salty or sweaty or whatever, and we say, all right, so and so is the leader, then they call the shots. They'll say, hey, this is where we need to go. This is our objective. They're calling out enemies, things like that. And they are like trying to use everybody's skills and collaborate. And that is way harder than just playing a game.
No, for
And
sure.
and yet it is like the single greatest thing to like help you win too, because it enables you to to know more and to do more. Anyway, so I don't want to like take up the whole podcast with me talking, but yeah, that's
Well, no,
something
I
that
feel like
we're trying
that's
to work
great.
on too.
Yeah, I think that what a lot of people don't realize, I think parents, when they hear video games, it's changing drastically. But I do think there's still like this level of like, why are you wasting your time doing this thing? And I
Yeah.
think there is a lot going on in video games that is actually super helpful. Um,
And it
if it's
depends on
in
the game
the
too.
right structure, if it's in the right structure, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like teamwork is always going to be a valuable resource across the board for any job you get in your future. And if you're able to have good communication skills and good teamwork, like you're going to be a player for any business. And so I think like when I hear that, I'm like, oh,
Or a marriage.
right on,
Just
right on. Like
gonna
that's
throw that in.
huge, right? Because if you're helping kids learn how to communicate themselves and you're helping kids learn how to be a good team player, that's gonna translate across the board. Like that's a big deal. That's awesome.
I think one thing to think about too is like when you're young, maybe the competitive side of gaming maybe brings out a little bit of the trolley nature
Mhm.
in the way that you communicate. So how do you personally balance like being competitive versus like just having fun? Just realizing that gaming is like
Yeah.
it's ultimately it's just for fun. Although it is a real sport these days. So I mean it can be
Mhm.
quite competitive. So how do you balance that?
Guys, this is so ironic that you're asking me this question. We had a competition yesterday, and I was asking chat the same thing. I was like, I am still struggling with this. This is a real struggle because there's a part of me deep, deep down that's competitive and that loves, I played soccer, volleyball my whole life, and I was
Oh, I
just
didn't
like
know that.
into those things. And then, gaming comes out and I'm the trash talker kid, that we're talking about, right? That's just like a little too angsty and doesn't have a channel for that angst and just takes it out on video games. That was me. And so when I'm playing games, especially on a competitive level, there's a pressure involved. And I think players, what they do with that pressure is interesting. Some people will freak out and kind of spiral out, and you see, broken keyboards and stuff like that. And I have never gone that way. Don't plan on ever going that way. I don't think like taking out your anger or frustration or disappointment or sadness and directing it in that manner is like a healthy way to deal with those things. But I do think communication is a huge piece of like, okay, there's something that went wrong. I need to communicate where I am being frustrated, and how I communicate that to my players is going to matter. And so yesterday I legitimately was like went from having fun and shift gears to all competitive, and then it was like the people I was playing with felt that they were like, whoa, okay, like, oh shoot, like, okay, we're in this now. And it was like that was on me. I was the agent of that change. And so I think there are like what I aspire to be, I think is different than where I'm currently at. But what I aspire to be is somebody who can have fun amidst competitiveness. But sometimes there are competitive players that see people having fun like, hey, this is not a drill. This isn't like, some casual game. We are, there's money on the line. Like there's
Yeah.
legitimate money. Like let's perform. And so I think like that balance is a hard one to know. But I would say it's completely dependent on what you're doing, right? So like if I'm playing a game that is casual and I have a competitive attitude to people, that's going to be a little jarring. But if I'm in a competition and I'm just having a great old time, like, and not, taking it seriously, that's going to also be an issue. So I think like you have to kind of read what you're doing and then utilize the skill sets in that level. And I think a lot of kids have it backwards, man. There's like this casual fun, like we're all playing together. And there's this one kid that's just like, so toxic and it's like, you guys suck at the game. Like, oh, and it's like, that's unhelpful, right? Like that's totally unhelpful. He's not reading the good context of what we are doing in gaming right now. And I think there's a time and a place to be competitive and there's a time and a place to have fun. And I think a majority of the time it's probably going to be to have fun. And some kids are kind of a little lost in that and thinking they're competitive players, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
how did the tournament go?
We got close, but we were like 100 ranks away from our goal. So we were close.
We're top a lot of players,
but we needed to be top 1%, unfortunately.
So, the Lachlan Pickaxe tournament, right? So
and then we were in Twitch Rivals before that, which was great. A lot of fun too. But yeah, Twitch Rivals is like, I think I struggle as a content creator finding other people that have the pressure of being a content creator. I play a lot with my community, which is awesome, but they're just like super excited just to be there typically. And there's not a whole lot of people that are like in a similar area as me that are just like, I'm a content creator. I know the pressure of having to have good content and produce good content to people that is entertaining and exciting and fun. They don't have that pressure. So they're just kind of like, hey, whatever. I'm going to be like yelling on my comms like crazy, or I don't like, like there's all of these like things that as a content creator, you're like, please play with people that don't have mics that are like, you're like, please, that's not going to create a clip. A kid that's asking you 100 questions while you're playing the game is also, so there's like all of these levels that I think people that play with you just don't realize. And I love playing with my community. So that's a value that I have, but also it comes at consequences where it's like when I have a Twitch tournament and there are people that might not understand that. I'm like, oh gosh, I need to diversify myself. And that's something I'm still learning. I'm 3 years in on this whole project. So I'm still learning a lot, but I need to start diversifying people that I play with who also share that pressure that I have when I play.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes into, I just barely started making videos for real and I'm just absolute new level, but, started messing with After Effects and some of the graphics and animation and stuff like that. And now I was watching like something just inane, like a Hot Wings commercial or something. And they were doing some graphics and I thought, wow, no way. And before it was just like, these are like, I hate commercials typically. And I was out to eat with the family, grabbing a burger and I was just like super amazed at just like random commercials. Just think like, whoa, how long did that take to render? And like, what kind of computer do they have? And what kind of animation sequence did they do? And all that stuff. Like, and you never think of any of these questions until you've tried to do it. And so I think that's what it comes down to. You're absolutely right about that.
Well, it's crazy too, the democratization of technology that like you sitting at home could create like a sweet Hot Wheels animation.
Oh yeah.
Whereas before, it was only the highest end computers, but now we all have high end computers.
So in this regard, I was watching the NFL and I saw like the way they do like the number system of like points and everything. It like rotated and I was like, that's amazing. Like I want that for my stream. And so then I'm not good at animating things. I'm good at graphic design, but animation is new for me. So I brought this idea to like a firm and they were like, we can do it. Like, well, I'm like, great. And then they do it and it looks like poop. It looks literally like so bad. And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And even though I don't have those skill sets, I spent probably 2 days of work learning, going online, figuring it out. And now I have, when any alert happens, my Squatingdog logo turns to the right and then bit animation goes across. And it's like, I feel so satisfied by that. And I think what a lot of kids need to realize is like, you can do it. You really can. Like, there are resources enough that are free that you can it's just the only thing it's going to cost is some time. It's going to cost you time, but you can create pretty much whatever you want by learning on the internet. Like, there's so much.
Yeah.
I am a self-taught creative. Everything that I've learned has been through one class, and it was Photoshop when I was in high school. That was the one class that initiated all of this.
Yeah.
And I think like kids need to know that, like, it is so accessible to you to be able to create what you want to create and show off what you want to show off. But it just takes time. Lots of it.
It takes time, and sometimes it takes a mentor, you know. But
Totally.
there are people that want to help. You know, I think like I was in the Boy Scouts, and there were tons
Ditto.
of people. And did you ever do any of the merit badges where you learned, like, you did a merit badge in something you just like had no exposure to previous?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, you know, when you're born, you don't have. It's like you're not gonna. No one gives you like this user's manual for life, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
you gotta expose yourself to different people and ideas and cultures and kind of get the best from all of that. So yeah, for sure.
Let's
I didn't get the sewing badge personally. It's not
Nor
good.
did I. Yeah.
let's talk for a minute about education. So as you might know, like, our whole business is, I mean, James and I were both educators. We were
Yeah.
both teachers. And our whole business is essentially like started on the idea of coding education, although we have kind of branched out into some more topics like gaming and things. But at the last 2 episodes of our podcast, we talked about technology in schools and kind of some of the pros and cons. And James learned, I guess, from another podcast that you had kind of a bad educational experience, I guess. Maybe, I don't know if it's bad, but maybe disengaged or disenfranchised a little bit. And we kind of wanted to get your take on, like, your thoughts on doing school better, engaging students more, how students can find their place in an education system that's not really always the best.
This question is a very hard one, I think, because of the uniqueness of each student, right? Like, each kid is different. Each kid is being raised in a family unit that thinks radically different than probably other family units. Each kid has a different set of skill sets that they know about and a bunch that they don't. And each kid is winging it for the most part for a good chunk of like their education and trying to figure out their social life and a bunch of other things. And so what makes this conversation hard is like there is a lot of assumption of what a good education is for the mass amount of kids. And then there's a bunch on the fringe, right? And I think the hope is that you try to get as many of them as possible, you know, and give them the best like unified like thought process for engaging with others, learning and like aspiring to be something, and then also equipping them for the work that might be ahead of them. And so I think like those things are all great, and I think like there's plenty of attempts. But what happens is you get a kid like me who starts to get into a little bit of self-awareness of like what they want to do, and then they start putting everything that's being taught to them in framework of like, does this fit within what I want to do? And so I'm going to use math as an example here. I feel like there is a never-ending black hole of math. Like, I don't know what the last math class is, but because I've never seen it before. Because I think you could always do more math. Like, there's always another equation and there's always another class you could take to get better at math. And although math is a helpful tool, I would say to the mass majority of people, there's only probably a certain amount of math that you actually need to be to use it well in our society. And so when I was getting to Trig 2, I was just like, what is the purpose of Trig 2? You know, why am I here? When am I ever going to ask my life or my society these questions? Or like, how is that going to be a helpful tool to me? And so then I started thinking like, well, if I'm spending time learning something that is not going to be helpful for my future, where could I be spending time that is? I started asking that question. And I think like that question is a crucial question and is super specific to each person. And I think when there is a kid that is frustrated because they're in a class that they just are like, why am I here? We should have some sort of empathy built into our system that goes, okay, like let's figure that out together. You know, like let's try to understand where you're coming from as a kid to be able to put you in a place that would be more valuable. I guarantee you, if I did as much math as I did Photoshop or like something creative, like a creative outlet, I would probably have way more like professional skill set for what I'm doing now. And I think like that is one of the problems. You know, I think that is one of the problems. There's just kind of this like, okay, we've taught you this, and now that you know that, we can now teach you this. And there's kind of becomes this question mark of like, how deep do you need to go? But as a kid, you don't really know what your future is. So it's annoying, right? Like it's not a very good system just in the sense because that kid might, you know, go to college and get a master's like I did and then completely change to something else because it's now available to you. So I don't know. I think for me personally, that was my issue. And I think what what would be really cool is if kids took a little ownership of like, I'm maybe interested in this, and to go to a mentor and go like, hey, I like doing this. This is something that gives me a lot of life. It's a lot of joy. And for a mentor to be strategic enough to look at that kid and go, yes, okay, let's try to plug you in this type of specific thing towards you and kind of cater that. Because I think once you build in that confidence, once you like, for me, it was like, I won a fair, like I won a photo in the fair and I got a ribbon and it was like this awesome thing, right? Like as a kid, I'm like, whoa, I can win stuff, you know, like cool. Like, and that ribbon, I don't have that anymore, you know, it's somewhere, you know, maybe my parents have it. But what that ribbon represented was like, people believe in your content. Like they believe in what you're creating. They believe in who you are. Like it starts to give more purpose than passing, you know, trig 2. Like there's a value now because it's been brought into the community and the community has accepted it. And so then that changes your excitement towards that thing. Now I'm like, all right, Photoshop, I'm buying you. Like before I wasn't, now I'm buying you. You know, like I'm not going to use it just as a cool computer. And so I think that's how it rolls. And I think like that type of education is a powerful one because it's garnered in community, and that community when it's acknowledged well, I think it builds more confidence in kids than just passing another test.
It's also the beauty of technology is that, you know, when I was a kid, I loved making movies. And this was before YouTube. So, I mean, I graduated 2003 and, but we loved making little movies and we'd post it on our website and had a, you know, very small following, I'm sure but it seemed pretty cool to like hear from people and hear that people were watching our movies all across the United States. But how nice would it have been to have a mentor who I could have reached out to say, hey, I'm making these movies, you know, what can I do to get to the next level? And the great thing about the internet is these days, someone can find someone like you or someone who is into film and have that conversation. I mean, you can reach out to YouTubers and I mean, there's just so many people creating content these days that just like wasn't even a career path back in 2003. So it's really an exciting innovation.
It's huge. Yeah. And I think like we got to give more credit to teachers too. Like there's a reason why teachers are teachers. And I think although there are bad teachers, there are also incredible teachers. And so even if you are a kid in the scholastic system, we're not going to throw it all out. Like there's some people that are talented in the scholastic system. And I think for me, it was my, you know, photo professor who spoke life into my stuff. Like and it was me going to him after hours and being like, hey, I want to be able to put pictures together. How do I do that? And for him to go check out Photoshop. Like it was my relationship with him that caused that to happen. And so I think like not only do you have access to people online, you have access to like comments and everything and DMs, all that stuff, but also teachers are also that are in that field or in something that you love. Talk to them, don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, for
push,
sure.
lean into those relationships, push into them, because they're only going to hopefully encourage you and push you forward, which would be great.
Yeah. Well, I had just kind of a new thought when you were talking, Jer. Is it okay to call you Jer?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting comfortable.
Well,
Yeah. Jared, when you cut off Army,
yeah.
we're in the sweet zone. So this is great.
Right.
This podcast is going well now that you're calling me
We'll
Jared.
see you at your place.
And if we go to Jeremiah, which I know is not your official name, right? But is a super cool name, then we're totally outpaced. So
yeah, I would hate you then. So
so Jer, when you're talking about this counselor student relationship, I think that's really interesting, and I think a lot of that probably comes to your personal experience. But yeah, it is a little bit tough to like predict the future of a kid, or for yourself as that child to predict your own future. Like I wanted to be a dolphin trainer, I think was like the first thing I wanted to be. Definitely not that now. Doctor, like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
No, but like dolphin trainer was like very specific. Ask my mom. Anyway, so I wonder, I was just thinking like, why do we have to wait till like the end, till like you're grown up before like you know what you want to do? So I was thinking like, what about like a dip in, dip out kind of schooling where like you could try something out for a half year or a semester or something and then like dip back into school. Like, oh, like I did like this, but I didn't have enough skills in like X area, and I could really use to learn the whole Creative Cloud, not just Photoshop, now that I have some professional experience. Like I almost wonder kind of if you just took an eraser to the system, right? Praise be to teachers. We're not trying to throw any shade your way, but if we could just kind of Control Alt Delete end task on the school system and then just redo a new one, I almost wonder what you could do. But that's like in an alternate universe. But what are your thoughts on that? Like pop in, pop out schooling.
I think, I mean, the theory of that's pretty cool, and I feel like there's some reality to that realistically, in the sense of if you treat school or your future as how much time you have in a day, it's kind of similar, right? So you might have to be forced to go to school and hate math like I did, but also when you get home, if you treat that time as like an opportunity to learn about something you actually really care about. Like I kind of wish that somebody, like I could go back in time and then go, hey, Jeremy, heads up, bro. YouTube's going to be huge. There's all of the technology that's coming that I can't really like streaming will be this thing. And if you just do these things, like we don't get those opportunities.
Yeah.
But what we do get is we get the opportunity to play around with new things every day, and kids have that same opportunity. And I think if kids actively pursued those things, they will find a lot more joy and success in their future endeavors, because they are using an inquisitive like nature to play around with new technology that's available to them. It's literally at their fingertips, right? But instead, they might want to do something else. Instead, they might want to do the other things. And so I think if there was like this homework assignment or like this initiative from people that care about their kids, of like, let's learn, let's explore, let's look at what capacities you have. If that was like the bedrock for their education, I think we would have a lot more kids really pushing themselves to things, because they're building that out, right? And I think it's a little bit of what you're saying, but I also think it also can be realistic too, because if your day doesn't end by the time you get home and you just want to go play Fortnite with your friends,
Sure,
and that's the only catalyst you have for joy, then that's all you're going to do. You're just going to do that thing. And if we can figure out other other avenues where you can find joy and it's also productive towards your future, like how exciting is that? Because you might be your own boss, you know, when by the time you're 16, 17, right? Like it's realistic nowadays.
This whole conversation has inspired me to get my 5-year-old a gaming computer and start his Twitch streams. So
There you go, man.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, I mean,
He legally can't until he's like 13 or 14.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he hits 13,
we'll just
getting
call it a family vlog first.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
We're family vlogging, but it's only your
it's really
son.
my stream. Yeah. Well, let's switch gears a little bit because I did have a question for you just about your app.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that you started out with the cheat sheets, which I assume were just PDFs.
Yeah, Photoshop or JPEG files.
And so now it's kind of transitioned to an app. Talk to me a little bit about how, because we don't have an app. I mean, I have websites for business and stuff, but man, I have heard some horror stories from friends being a little bit in the industry about maintenance on an iOS app. I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know a little bit about maintenance, economics, and also just like generally, if the app is like your main source of income, or like what do you do for your main source of income?
Real quick for those of you just listening to the podcast, not watching this on YouTube, you know, Jer's like shaking his head in agreement so much that his head looks like it's about to fall off. So go ahead, Jer.
Yeah. Okay. So, it is not my major source of income. First of all, what it is about $400 to $500 a month for ads. And that is just a small itty bitty little bar at the bottom because I wanted it to be a helpful tool. I don't want it to be a thing that, like, I don't know, you've probably used the apps. You're like, download this app, and you have to like swift your finger so many times to get past all of the content to get to the thing that is actually the app. I don't want that for my community. And so what ended up happening is Epic Games gave us creator codes through Fortnite. So what this means is if you use my code Squatingdog in the item shop, whatever you purchase in the item shop, I get a 5% dividend, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so if you have a huge following and a lot of people use your code, that actually can be substantial income. And so for me, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm a billionaire. It's just like a piece to the puzzle. So my goal every day, my wife, because of Corona, unfortunately lost her job. And I am the sole provider, so a little stressed out by that. But there are two sources of major income for me. That is through Twitch, and that is through the app or the supported creator code. So those two things allow me to pay for rent every day. However, to build an app, which costs a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources, it was kind of a difficult endeavor. But Epic did this major thing like 2 years ago where they were like, hey, you get, I think it was like 20 or 30% of anything that is purchased. And then they incentivized people to buy things. But at the time, I was one of maybe 100 people that had supported creator code. So I had a lot of people like double down on my code. I think I had over 60,000 people all use my code. Wow. And so there was this massive amount of income that came in. And so typically how I operate as a person is like community comes first. And so I utilized that money and pretty much turned it all back in to a more helpful resource, which was creating an application.
Gotcha.
And so that is how we created it in terms of putting it, a team together to be able to make it exactly what I want, which is essentially Google Maps for Fortnite. I just want people to have one stop for resource. Like it's just, this is where you go to find everything you need in Fortnite. Because if you go online, it's chaos. It's crazy out there. You're watching a 10-minute video and it's nuts. And so I want as a specific resource for people that they can just kind of pull it up and go, this is my companion to what I'm doing. And that is why I did that, is because a PDF or a picture or whatever isn't enough. necessarily to get you all of the information you need, especially when I'm dealing with procrastinators and people that can't play as often, those types of things where they're like, where is this? And I'm like, dude, you gotta scroll back 5, things on my Instagram to find that. Like, so I wanted one place, its own place to have those things. And it is not even close to what I have imagined because of how much I could spend towards it. Like, it's just expensive. Like, it's a very expensive endeavor to create an app. And so I personally am taking that in stride. I have enough ad space to where it pays for my servers, which is great. So it's kind of self-sustaining a little bit. It's a little under because of like other things, but the server costs, all that type of stuff is just nuts. So we're trying to get to a place where we're maintaining it. And another really cool thing about the app is if you are a Twitch subscriber of mine, you can link the app. And then what happens is you have an ad-free experience. And so there's incentive for people that come and use the app to subscribe to my channel because then they have an ad-free experience in the app itself. So that is, like for Twitch, you get $2.50 per sub. So having subs is a really great way to also keep avenue up for other things. So it's hard. Like I was trying to think creatively of like, how do I support myself and the app without taking advantage of those people, right? And so it's not like I'm not taking advantage of you because it's like there's ads that could populate the entire screen, and I can make bunko bucks for that. But then that comes at the cost of the user. So I decided small ad, right? And then I don't want to take advantage like you have to sub to me in order to use this. Like that would be horrible. But if you want to, if you want to support the content I'm creating, you can. And so it's been like my whole content creation has been like this. Like it's just like you never know where income's coming from, but ultimately I'm trying to be as serving to this community as possible and not trying to take advantage of anyone. And so I think that's been the hard part because a lot of business people are like, oh, just do this. And it's like, I just feel so uncomfortable, like cutting corners. I want to do everything right. And so that's a little bit of my purpose behind how we've gotten where we are with the app. Yeah.
That's great.
Man, I want you to be my politician now. Goodness. Like, that's about the opposite. That's about the opposite attitude. They're like, yeah, what can I do for myself? How can I empower myself and enrich myself? So, well, thanks
for
for
life of a content creator. I'm sure though.
And also one thing that's really interesting is like I was creating cheat sheets before there was any monetization possible. It was just out of goodwill. It was just like I saw a problem and I fixed the problem. And people were like stoked on it. Yeah. And so like that was it. I was fixing other problems for other games too, like Destiny, all these other games I really loved. But it wasn't about like, ooh, I'm gonna do this to get something. That was never the goal. It was always like, this is a helpful tool. Here you go. Like I can do this on my free time. Boom. And I did it for like a year until like I actually made $1. Like through any other avenue. So it's very interesting. Like that. I think a little bit of that heart comes from the fact that it was just like, this is what I've been doing. And now it's cool because it's starting to fund itself. So now it's like, oh, let's keep going in this. Let's see how far we can take this and see what other opportunities this could create for me and my family. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I know James might have some other questions for you. James, do you want to jump in with another question? Because I had a different one, but I feel like it's more of a wrap-up question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, so I'm curious. I'm just curious about marriage in general because like I love the topic. And Laura and I have been married for 5 years now. And boy, if I got that number wrong, I'd be in trouble. It's recorded. It's now recorded. So, that's intense. Being in a relationship. What are some pro tips that you would give to people? Well, and then I have another question later. But what are some tips that you'd have for like relationships in general? I mean, like obviously how you treat your community is extremely respectful. I'm assuming some of that bleeds over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think community for me has always been a value. Everywhere I go and whatever I do has always been built like building a community. Like it's just a part of creating a place where people feel belonging is so crucial to any relational endeavor. And so ultimately, like what I want to do before Corona was to create like game cafes where like people could come in, get a beer, come in, get some coffee, and then also like teach people how to play games well with their community so that they could get excited about a specific like reason for coming together. And so ultimately I wanted to create these game cafes across the world. With Corona makes it a little sticky, but still something that I feel is a pertinent thing to have community play together. Play is a huge thing. And so I think like when it comes to community for me, it's always creating a sense of belonging. Like, do you feel like you belong? And I feel like that is something that each person in their brain, not consciously, subconsciously, is thinking. Like when you walk in a door, do you belong there? And do you feel like you do? Because that's going to dictate how long you stay there, how engaged you are, all of these different things. And so for me personally, I'm going to be the first one to be embarrassing. I'm going to be the first one to act silly. I'm going to be the first one to be that way so that other people can feel like, okay, at least I'm not that guy a little bit. But also like, I'm kind of weird too. And that's okay. You know, like I feel like I could be more okay of being in my own skin. So ultimately, like my whole life has dictated like, how do we build community around where we are? And so being married, Jill is also that way. She loves people a lot. And we both kind of like back to the very beginning with gaming, communication and teamwork, I feel like have been kind of at the forefront of us like both working as a unit, but it's also really hard. Like me being, you know, my own entity, my own boss, there time you can easily lose it. And so I have found that I make the most mistakes when I'm not communicating to her about that time and what I need to accomplish in my day, because I am my own boss. So I should be articulating all of the things that's going on to my number one, my CEO. And so for her, like I feel like that's been kind of where a lot of tension points are, is if I'm not good at communicating the stress that I'm carrying or the work that I need to accomplish, especially given that my time, like when I'm up and all that stuff is just wacko because of Fortnite. But I do think communication is a huge piece to all of this. And then also like I'm fortunate. I think a lot of people, and it's taken her a little bit to kind of see the value of what I do in the sense of like what is out there on the internet, like and what community you can actually create. We have a bunch of people in our community that are all over the world, and supporting people from all over the world is kind of an endeavor in itself. But like we have seen some incredible things happen through our community. And so I think once she starts to see that like the people I'm talking to on the mic are on the other side of the world, and that we have actual relationship and actually are more than just like yelling at each other for playing a video game. Life happens, you know, life happens where you spend your time. And so when you're spending it with certain people, you're building good relationship with them, you know? And so it's been cool to see her even take on that onus of like, I get this. I understand this. I see the impact of like what you're doing with the relationship. And we've had a lot of suicide prevention. We've had a lot of like crazy moments, you know, where we're like focusing in on a person and being like, hey, we're here for you. And that has been really cool to see what kind of life force it gives a community. And so, yeah, I think like when it comes to our own personal relationships, we are very strategic about like making sure we have time to be with the people we love. So we're both into Survivor. I don't know if you guys know that show. It's an old show that never changed. It's always been the best.
Yeah.
World. If you don't like Survivor, that's okay, but you should try it out again because it's amazing. We have a Survivor fantasy league that we put together every year. And so we like straight up fantasy league, and you pick your person and who's going to win and all this stuff. And it's kind of an excuse to bring everyone together. Yeah. And so now that that's done, we're kind of sad and depressed, but we do try to like have a weekly thing where we're like bringing people together and engaging with our community. And I love coffee shops. I'm strategic about not having my full morning streaming, and that's to do content and also to be relational with people in my life, to go out and get coffee, hang out, and typically it's with my wife. So yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds
Very cool.
That's definitely rejuvenating. Yeah. You need to, as Stephen Covey would say, sharpen the saw, right? So it's definitely important.
it's
my
so
other
easy to isolate yourself too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's especially in this year of all years.
100%.
It's so easy.
100%.
So
Yeah.
maybe the final question, maybe not. But I'm just acting as voice for a lot of the students that we have. You know, we're teaching a YouTube 101 class right now, which basically goes over like video editing and how to get followers and things like that. And so quite a bit. I mean, we could theoretically do this class for years and years and years and it'd still build on it. But it's just an introductory class. So, you know, someone who does a lot of content creation, someone who is in your position as a streamer that's successful, what would be some tips and tricks, as the industry says, to help get them focused on like the right things?
For YouTube specifically?
Or Twitch?
Well, I think just
or,
being,
just being a content creator.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So my number one is you can't expect a raid, a host, a shout out, a whatever to completely start your career. I think like myth busting that is super crucial, because you have to realize being a content creator, there is a lot of work involved. It's not about, oh my gosh, like Ninja rated me a couple days ago, actually, which is kind of crazy. And it was like, I freaked out about it. I was like, what the heck? Like, this is wild. That is not my worth. You know, Ninja rating me is not my worth. That isn't like going to make me create better content. Like that might get me excited, you know, amped and like cause me a little bit more drive. But ultimately, like you can't expect somebody out there just to be like, I like this guy. And then their whole following comes. And then all of a sudden you're just like popular. Like that's not how content creation works.
Right.
Content creation is creating something valuable and it being acknowledged as valuable to whatever amount of people you have watching your content. And hopefully it's valuable enough to where your brother calls you up and go, hey, have you seen this video? Or, hey, have you like checked this resource out? Or, hey, like you have to be valuable enough for somebody else to vouch for you. Right. And so you have to create that value. It's not like somebody might acknowledge it from time to time, but it has to be organic enough to grow that way. And so that's a crucial piece to content creation. The second valuable piece to content creation is tools. And this is what I found to be very helpful for me personally. I had in Reddit, I think in 2018, I got an award for being one of Reddit's most followed viewer. It was me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and NASA at the time were the top 3 people followed on Reddit. And people don't follow people on Reddit. There's no reason to follow people on Reddit because it's viral to one viral thing per person, essentially. And I was creating quote unquote viral content regularly. So people decided to follow me. Now, here I was with, 30,000, 40,000 followers on Reddit, just sitting there waiting for my next, cheat sheet. And so what I realized was I need to then take that following and translate it. If I want to eventually make money in the future, there's no monetization in Reddit at all. And so
unless you're Reddit.
I need to figure out a way to get that audience also somewhere else and see if there's a translation. If they like that content, there's a chance that they might like my stream. If they like, that Twitter post that was pretty ironic, they might enjoy my quips on the stream, right? So you have to figure out a way to organically go, hey guys, this is another thing I'm also doing. If you like this type of content, come on by. And so if you have any type of influence anywhere, you want to use other social media tools to help direct other audiences towards other things, because each social media tool is utilized differently. And I think a lot of times people go, okay, I'm in a Twitch stream, and then they turn on the record button, and then they're talking to nobody for 8 hours. Like, man, that was a grind. And then they go, all right, I'm in a Twitch stream again. And they do the exact same thing. And they will never grow, because they're not telling their family on Instagram, hey guys, I'm trying this project out on like using whatever following you have and directing them to where you will be. If you're not doing that, you're just going to kind of sit there, right? And YouTube's the same way. You can create a cool video and you could have spent hundreds of hours on it, and if nobody sees it, it's just sitting there on the internet, And so you need to be able to figure out ways to utilize the tools that you have or the following you already have and direct them to another audience. I can't tell you how many times people come by my stream and go, oh, you also stream? It's like, that is just literally hilarious at this point, because that's just the rhetoric I get, because I need to figure out a better way to direct people like, yes, I'm a streamer and a content creator, not just the guy that you would think that creates cheat sheets. So a lot of people use my content all the time, but don't even know I'm doing other things. And so being able to educate people that way, all of a sudden somebody comes by and it's like, dude, I'm dropping you $100. You saved me, years of work. Thank you. That translates, right? And so I think like that type of attitude is really crucial. Don't look at YouTube, if you want to be a YouTuber, as just using YouTube. Don't look at, if you want to be an Instagrammer, just doing Instagram. You have to use other social medias to inform those things. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really difficult to grow.
I think James and I are finally coming to this realization
about
our website. Well, our website, because our website drives a lot of traffic, but now I think just coronavirus and like the last few months, like going a lot of virtual classes, we're like finally starting to realize like, wow, we have a lot of website traffic and we have a lot of like former students. Yeah. But like, how do we move them from the status of former student to like currently engaged with us? Or how do we move them from like website visitor to like someone who wants to get on our Minecraft server, or just
and not be the guy that does that all the time, right? Yeah. Like, because you can also unfollow the person that's like, hey, follow my Twitch. Right. Hey, follow my Twitch. Right. Hey, it's like, that's not what Twitter is for. And so it's also realizing, why are people coming to those specific social medias? That's crucial, right? Because I can't get mad at my Instagram. I have a huge Instagram, but I can't get mad at them because they're coming for quick clips and my cheat sheets. And so if I can't get mad at them for not checking out my Twitch, because to go to a Twitch, you are sitting with somebody for a long period of time. YouTube is kind of similar. YouTube and Twitch, I think, translate a little bit better, but it's like, if they don't have any time, they're going to go on Instagram and swipe. They're swiping before bed. Like, they're not going to go, oh, I should go hang out with Squatingdog for like 5 hours, like on his Twitch. Like, I can't be mad at that, right? Like, I have to realistically hold all my social medias appropriately. Like, Twitter is designed for a specific thing. YouTube is designed for a specific thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't all coexist, right? And so we have to like expand our brain a little bit of like, why are people coming for this? Why are people coming for this? And if you can learn that about your own content or cater it to that content, I think you're going to find more success in different avenues for sure.
Man, well, I didn't expect you to give me advice like just a absolute Merry Christmas to James Thornock. I appreciate it.
Follow-up question. Let's talk for a minute about where you want people to contact you. Obviously, your Twitch stream. We definitely want to throw that out into the ether. What are the big platforms you want people to reach out to you on?
Obviously TikTok. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a TikTok though. It's just funny. I would say I am so interpersonal. Like, I love this stuff. Like, I love helping people. I love building relationships. I actually care a lot about like the people that I spend my time with. Like, I want to see them succeed. So honestly, like, I feel like if you want the best picture of like engaging with me, come by my Twitch channel when I'm live. I'm live 6 out of 7 days. So that's a really easy way to just come in and be like, hey, just make sure you at me, because sometimes chat can get crazy, but at me and be like, hey, I just heard you on this podcast. Like, I had a follow-up question. I'd love to be able to field those and be as interpersonal with you about those questions that you might have, whoever's listening to this podcast. And then if you're looking for any like specific thing, like you can always DM me on either Twitter or Instagram. Twitter will be easier on me, and my Discord, of course, is easier. Because Instagram's a little bit crazy. It's like a big boy. And so sometimes I won't be able to get to your stuff. So maybe don't utilize my Instagram. But if you want to DM me on Twitter or DM me on Discord, those are 2 easy ways to get a hold of me. And like I said, I try my best to answer as many as I can, but I'm limited in my time as well. But yeah.
And you have your own Discord channel, James was telling me.
Yes. Yeah. We have
it's
Squatingdog Squad.
Squatingdog Squad.
There's a lot in there too. So yeah, for those of you listening on Twitch, we got Creative Monday, Try Hard Tuesday, Wildcard Wednesday, Tenderfoot Thursday. Is that all still a thing?
It used to be a thing.
Okay.
We've slowed it down a little bit. If you want to be a part of if you want to get to know our community, playing on Saturday or Sunday, they're interchangeable. Okay. We've been playing more on Sundays lately. It's called Stream Snipe Squatting Saturday and Sunday. I play with everybody that comes by, so I'll fill in with whoever's playing, and we do gift cards for V-Bucks every week, and so we give that out to our community. I try to I have a percentage of the income that I make, I dedicate and pour back into my community. I'm also sponsored by Logitech and Blue, so we do giveaways for headsets and stuff to try to get kids the right gear that they need to be able to succeed in esports. And so, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to be a part of our community and potentially get you some cool stuff, but also hopefully some cool friendships and lifelong friends, which has been kind of the biggest thing that I get excited about is when kids find other kids that are like, they become best friends. Like, that's rad. Yeah. So that's ultimately what we're trying to foster.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. I think we went where no other podcast went. I think definitely an education and what you're trying to grow and what you're trying to build. So definitely appreciate that. Yeah, definitely shout out to Logitech again. We got
oh man. So many sponsors.
I know, so that don't exist, but yeah, definitely do that. I think.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. And if you guys ever want to do anything in the future, don't hesitate to let me know. Like I like I said, or one of my sayings is like, good people help good people. So I want to see you guys succeed as much as I hear that in your voice. So thank you for having me. And I'm super excited that the kids get you guys to be able to actually take the time to put this much effort into them. And I think they might not see it, and I don't know how good they are at appreciating it. But if you are listening to this podcast and you guys have been affected or cared well by these two, you guys got to articulate that. That's fuel to us as content creators. We really do appreciate hearing like the helpfulness that it can be. So please do that. If you can't already, DM them and be like, yo, thank you for doing this, because it's awesome. Huge. It really is. You guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks.